How are you showing up for your clients? How are you showing up when you're attracting new people in? How are you showing up during the actual transaction itself? And how are you showing up after that transaction actually happens? And if you can raise the bar in all these areas, you're probably going to have a thriving business.
Welcome back, everyone, to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. As always, I'm Matt Benelli. He's Garrett Fry. And we want to start by saying thank you so much to those of you who tune in and those of you who are tuning in right now. We were just kind of having a conversation about audience sizes and things like this. And we were like, how cool is it? Like, it is that there are people, hundreds, thousands of people who tune into this. And gosh, like, I'm so grateful for that. And it is an honor to share the day with you guys who are listening. And so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And it's humbling also when you start kind of paying attention to it and thinking about the audience size that we get to interact with, really on a weekly basis. And Matt, thanks for doing this with me. And thank you to all of you who tune in, because we enjoy doing this so much. It's super fun. It's enjoyable. And we'll keep it coming as long as everybody wants it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're on a mission, to really inspire a lot of people and to help a lot of people actually achieve this incredible harmonization between their business and their life, because life is the most important thing that we can do, right? It's not the business. The business is important. We want to fund life. But if we can help more and more people do that. So for those of you who are listening, if you know people who would benefit from this stuff, give it a share. If you are watching on YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like. That helps all of the things. It helps us expand our reach so that we can help impact more people and inspire more people. So appreciate you, Garrett. And we got a great topic today too, because this actually came out of an interesting circumstance that happened this happens in
really
all towns.
Unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah. It was. So anyway, we want to talk about, why do businesses fail and how do we react to those, and what can we learn from businesses that we see fail in our communities? And I say fail, meaning like they close. And so we had a restaurant here in Johns Island that closed after a year. They all this construction to build this brand new building and all this stuff. And people thought, oh, this restaurant's great. They love the food. They closed down. People are like, wait, what? Why did they close down? And then Garrett, you had a similar thing happen right at the same time in your town as well.
But mine wasn't a brand new restaurant. Mine was an established 17 years in my time that I have lived in this town. This restaurant has been going. It has been part of my world. And I would really say in the last 10 years, it's been something that I've gone to regularly. And in the last 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that, it was a weekly place that we would go to. We would go there for lunch. We would go there for dinners. We would meet our friends there. Sarah and I would just get out of here, let's just get out of the house. And it was close. It was like maybe a half mile away for us to be able to get to it. And it was amazing. It was an amazing setup. It worked extremely well. And at the same point, we went in there, we were sitting at the restaurant, reading our food, and one of the servers comes up and they just go, "It's been such a pleasure serving you guys, and I just want to say thank you." And I'm like, "Well, that's very nice of you. Like, thank you." Like, oh, okay. Like, and then
a pleasure being served.
I love coming here also. And then all of a sudden, another server comes up and says, "It has been so great getting to know you guys over the years, and we just appreciate you so much." And he walked away, and I looked at Sarah, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" I'm like, "They're closing." I know exactly what's going on. And then another one came over and they're like, "We thought you knew." And it was one of these things where they were in a place that it was like, not only are we closing, but we're closing in 2 days. They announced it to the local population and it was gone and done. And it was really interesting to see how the local population responded to this and what they thought happened and what they think happened and what it looked like from the outside to maybe what was going on inside. And this brings us up to a point of, Matt, of like, why do businesses like this fail? Like what causes that to fail when it looks like it's so darn good sometimes?
Yeah. And I think and this happens all the time in real estate businesses. And so what we want to do is basically Monday morning quarterback some of this stuff to get some kind of key points that we can take and you guys can then apply into your business to say, hey, how do I avoid this stuff? Because we have two examples here of a brand new thing, someone trying to make a splash, coming at it really good and with high quality, everything that you could probably do right from a consumer viewpoint of a restaurant, to long established, been in business a long time, and all of a sudden it's just poof, gone in a day, which probably not gone really in a day, just you see it being gone in a day.
Yeah,
right?
slowly bleeding out is what happened, and to the point that I was like, okay, we're calling time of death. That's what's really going on here. But I think in real estate and with the realtors that we work with, Matt, we watch this all the time where you get this, really polished, shiny, new agent that comes in and everybody is like, they're going to kill it. They're going to crush it in this business. And they never quite get going from the outside, or even on social media and what they're posting, what they're putting out. The general population may say, wow, they look like they're doing so well. Look like they've got all this stuff going on. And then all of a sudden they're just not licensed anymore. They just kind of like drift away. And it's like, I thought they were doing business. I thought they were doing well, and they weren't. And then there's the veteran agents that have been doing this a long time. They've got a great business, at least it looks like from the outside. And for some reason, and we're going to get into some of these things, all of a sudden they are like, I'm out. This isn't for me anymore. I'm shutting the door. I'm walking away. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's one of those, again, from the outside, especially like another realtor would be like, why are they leaving? Like, oh my gosh, they have everything that I'm striving to be. Like, but why are they going? And it can be really confusing.
Yeah, it can be. And I think there's one thing, and I wouldn't be able to tell if either of these business engaged in this, but this is a common thing I've seen with businesses that fail is, one, understanding your numbers, being honest with yourself, and then asking for help before it becomes too late, right? And because that's what I see happen a lot, which is why a lot of times you all of a sudden see a business close and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. It's like, but they saw it coming and maybe they just didn't ask for help enough. Because it's okay to ask for help. I see it with realtors all the time. They'll get like, I'm just not making it, just not making it, just not making it. And they'll go 2 years without asking somebody for help. And it's too late at that point. They're like, I got to move on to the next thing because I need cash flow, right? And sometimes that can be the simple solution. But there's kind of, two things that I definitely want to highlight here. One is marketing and remarketing as a new business. And then also understanding the numbers and local relations, right? So with the restaurant here, brand new, we have like 15 million Mexican restaurants on John's Island. I don't know why we have so many Mexican restaurants. And they're all a little bit different, right? And they all do well. At least they all are still open, except for this one, which was brand new. And it was going to be this big thing. I mean, brand new construction, all of this stuff. And after 1 year. Now, what's interesting is this restaurant never came up in my mind as like, hey, let's go to that restaurant. And I started to ask myself why, because everybody would say, oh, we're so surprised that it closed. And then people would say, well, when's the last time you went there? They're like, well, I maybe went there once. And I was like, actually, I haven't even been there yet.
Hard to stay open when people aren't going.
Yeah. So everyone says, oh, why is it closing down? I was like, well, you haven't been going there and eating the food there. That's why. And so I started to ask myself, why do I go to these other restaurants instead of thinking, hey, I should go there? And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, the experience when I was there, right? The experience I have at certain restaurants, if you engage with the wait staff and the host or the hostess and other people in the restaurant, you leave with a sense of belonging. And when we did go to this restaurant, which we went twice, I never felt that when I left. I never felt like, hey, they want me to come back. It kind of felt like, hey, they're doing great. Like they don't need my business. It was a little higher ticket than some other restaurants. And so, we'll save that maybe as a special occasion place, right? Which tough location to be a special occasion place, by the way. So for me, there was a lack of remarketing that was going on to have consumers and customers come back, because even though the ticket on certain things were higher, it's also a Mexican tapas small plate restaurant. So you could get in there and out of there for not a lot of money if you made, certain choices. And there was never any, I never saw anything for them, never got anything in the mail, never was targeted with any type of social media ad, never, got an email from there, and which they probably had it because when you swipe your credit card, it collects the email and all that kind of stuff now. Nothing. And I was like, so for me, Garrett, if we're not remarketing to our people, if we're not talking to them, engaging them, you're going to have a trouble getting customers to come back, which I would say is probably why that restaurant failed. Is the people that went through there probably enjoyed the food, but then never came back.
Well, and this is why when I'm working with the realtor, I always say the people that have actually experienced your profession, they've experienced your service, they've experienced your energy, like that is the most valuable person you have in your world of what your business is. And the challenge is that if you let that person walk out the door and they either didn't get the experience that we wanted them to get, or if we never follow up with them afterwards, which happens in real estate all the time, where that person comes in, they get a chance to experience it, and then, oh, the deal's done. Where in the world did my realtor go to? Not that they're wanting you to hang out in their life, but we just disappear. And so it's like, you have all this opportunity to keep this energy going, to keep this relationship going, and it just kind of fizzles out. And I think in the restaurant format, like you have got to find some way to keep that energy going to have them come back, because you don't want to be. I mean, there are the restaurants that are going to be these special occasion restaurants, but that's a tough, restaurant place to be in. Like you got to be something very unique, very novel if you're going to be that special occasion place that they says, hey, look, we can attract enough people in for special events.
Well, and I'll compare this to another restaurant that I am shocked is actually still open. Because I haven't been a fan. Every time I go there, I'm like, it's really not worth what I'm paying for to be here. But they know their place. And I think the interesting thing is you have to understand so many different things about your own business. What is the visibility of your business? And that's why I highlighted the remarketing, because this other restaurant that's open around here that I don't necessarily like going to, we've been a handful of times. It's in a complex where you see it all the time, because I go to the other places around it and they have games out there. And so the girls will see that, like, hey, I want to go to the place with the games that has the milkshakes. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we can go there, even though I don't really like the food there and the service is kind of not that great. It's like, but we end up going because it's visible, right? This other restaurant was kind of hidden and not very visible, but they have a competitor that is in a similar situation that is still open and doing extremely well. Brand new construction restaurant. They're making it. They're making a run out of it. It's expensive, but they understand their visibility and they're talking to their audience that they want to have in there, and so they do come back.
Yeah, and this goes back. The more we're talking about this, Matt, I keep going back to the book that I introduced you to years ago, which is Embracing the N.U.D.E Model by oh gosh, his name. Degraffenreid is his last name.
Yeah.
Michael? Yeah, the last name. I for some reason, his first name has just slipped my mind.
Michael Degraffenreid? Mark
Paul?
Degraffenreid?
Bill? John?
Jacob?
Degraffenreid. We'll stick with that. Well, the model is, the book is called Embracing the N.U.D.E Model, and it's the new art and science of referral-based marketing, but it's also why people come back and use a service over and over and over again. And the N.U.D.E model stands for novelty, which is something special, unique, or different about whatever service you have. You have utility, which is whatever the cost is, do you back it up in value? Utility is, does it serve a useful purpose? Sorry, I'm crossing things up. Utility is, does it serve a useful purpose to us? D is dependability, which is, do they show up consistently and provide the service that you are expecting over and over and over again that you can depend on? And last thing is economy, which is whatever you're paying, is it backed up by the value that you received? It's a pretty simple model that you can walk into almost any place, lay that model on it and be like, oh, I understand why they're making it work. You just describing this one that you're like, yeah, the food's kind of, that's not really great, but like this isn't, but they've got this and the girls want to go back. And this is why we end up there. And it's just what we do. These can kind of all equalize themselves, where if you have a brand new business that maybe is really missing in one of these categories, it can crush that business. It can all of a sudden, like if the economy is really low and dependability is really low, it's like all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if this is why we're going to be coming back here. And it sounds like the new one that went out, maybe not very novel. Like it was there, it was good, but there wasn't anything special that made it stand out.
What was novel about it was that it was new.
That's it.
And that ran out real fast. And I think with new things, you can probably see, if we use the N.U.D.E model as kind of a calculator here, like, okay, there was probably something that was missing significantly in those categories. But you take a restaurant like Moonstone in your town, which If you're missing just a little bit, that's where the bleed starts to happen. And you can have, because maybe this restaurant that I don't necessarily like is slowly bleeding and eventually will go away because of the economy and the dependability is, I would say, probably on the lower mark, not crossing that figure that would make it referable. And maybe that was something going on with the restaurant in your area.
Yeah. Well, the restaurant in our area, very, very, very novel, had an incredible environment, and it was different than anything else that was happening here in our town. I would say one of the things that hurt them, because they served a useful purpose, we had utility there. Dependability was something they struggled with. The food would sometimes come out in certain ways, and it got to a place that the staff knew it. And so you would order something. And I remember one of my favorite servers, Seth, if you listen to this, you're an incredible server. Seth would look at me and he'd look in the back and he'd be like, Roberto's on the fryer tonight. You don't want that. And I was like, I really do want the fried cheese over the pesto. And oh my gosh, it was so good when it was done right. Roberto on the fryer would not be able to bring it out the way that I wanted. It was undercooked. It was doughy. And when I say the way I wanted it, like it was doughy. It was like eating raw dough wrapped around cheese, where I don't know who the right person was, but I just knew because they were like,
it wasn't
like
Roberto.
that. You want it tonight? It came out incredible. And so dependability was an issue. And the other part was they're expensive. When I order a pasta dish, from the menu and it just says pasta with the special price on it. It actually doesn't give you a price on it. It's kind of like their nightly special that they have. Ask the server what the $50 is a lot of money for a pasta dish. That was consistently that way. And the problem is you walk in there with your children and the kids, even in their mind, go, well, I'll take the pasta. I'm like, that's a $50 meal. Like, child, you better finish the meal if we're going to do that. And even at that, no, you're not having the pasta. But that was these things that all of a sudden started to break them down. And I think looking at this model and looking at a business that's failing, you can either be a business that just puts the hammer down and goes, but this is what we are. We're not changing. We're not adjusting to this at all. We can see that we're failing, but we're not changing. People have got to learn what we are and love what we are. And there's another side of saying, let's look at this from a different angle. What can we change? How can we approach this differently? And this is where you got to be willing to ask questions. You got to be willing to want to hear maybe some things you don't want to hear and grow and learn from it. And I think that's what killed that business is they got headstrong and just was like, this is what we are. And if you don't like it, don't come here. That actually, they put that in the paper a while back, which that was the kiss of death.
Yeah, that's going to make it hard for any business, right? And it's not saying you shouldn't be who you are, right? Particularly when you think about real estate. And the easy advice is don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, just be all things to all people and be neutral. And yeah, that's good advice. But if you're really into something, you don't have to not be who you are, right? It's just how do you want to apply that to your business? Because business is a separate thing of who you are, which is why with what we do, Garrett, our whole mission is to help people integrate and harmonize life and business, but not make business your life, which is what most people do. And it's like, well, you can still have your life and then business runs a little bit differently, but it's integrated in a way where it doesn't stress you out all the time. And I think that's another reason why you'll see businesses fail is people just get to the point where they're not emotionally in it anymore. And they're like, I can't do it anymore. I'm unwilling to take advice. I'm unwilling to see things as they are, and I'm unwilling to change. And sometimes it's a decision they just let it fail, right?
And this business probably could have kept going. It could have kept kind of like pushing along, making it work, maybe fine tuning. And the straw that broke the camel's back was the lead of the house basically decided he was quitting. He got a job offer, and he was the backbone that made that whole place come together, like hold together. And the minute he said he was leaving, I'm like, I give the restaurant a month, and it lasted 2 weeks.
Well, and that's where identifying and understanding how your business comes in, right? And so applying this to, and so that's so you take that element, compare it to what happened with the restaurant here in my town. While they didn't have a key person leave, they didn't never figured out how do we get more people in. Your restaurant never acknowledged that this is someone who's helping us bring people back in because of the energy, because of the connections, because of the relationships. He's the reason why people are coming back in. Let's learn from that so that if he does go, which you should want your people, if you're running a business, to grow and expand and have the opportunities to go where they want to go. If he does go, we know what to do. We know the systems and things, and we can integrate that in and still bring people back into this restaurant. And so if you apply this to your own business, one thing, Garrett, that I know a lot of realtors don't necessarily look at is, well, the business that you have or the business that you've done over the past year or 2 years, how has that business come to you? Right. And it's easy to say, well, it's sphere of influence. Oh, it's referrals. Okay, great. I want you to really understand who are the people that are referring? How are those referrals coming in? When it's people who are in your sphere of influence, who are they in your sphere of influence? What's your frequency of communication with those people? Is there a commonality between these people or a commonality between how you communicate with these people? Because if you understand how the business comes in, then it's like, okay, cool, let's do more of those things that can generate that so that we can build a stronger foundation of new business and repeat business. Then we can figure out all the new and fancy and fun stuff from there to really grow this thing up a whole lot. But if you're not doing those foundational key understandings, your business is going to have trouble growing and sustaining.
Well, I know we've compared, talked about restaurants a lot here. And the interesting thing that's different with a restaurant compared to like a real estate business is a real estate business and a realtor that's out here growing their business. The restaurant gets while you're there. I mean, there are restaurants in your town that will do other things and you see them involved where they'll sponsor events and they'll be involved in other things. But it's not all the restaurants. A lot of restaurants kind of sit in their realm. They show up, they do a great service while you're there, and hopefully these people will want to come back and see us again. When in real estate, and I've tried to get people to see it from this angle for a long time, is that we really have 3 stages to the business. You have this place that you're very involved with the community, hopefully, homes, things that are going on, the world around, and you're going to show up. That's stage 1. This is before the person ever decides to actually hire you as a real estate agent. A lot of realtors do not show up in stage 1 over here. They're kind of just waiting for that lead to come in that they can work with. Then we have stage 2, which is this opportunity, just like the restaurant, where we're now in working mode with them. We have the moment that we've started working to the moment that they close, which is the moment that the person at the restaurant signs the check and leaves. That is the same. Restaurant gets maybe an hour and a half. Maybe you really want to hang out there for an hour and a half. We get a month. Let's say 45 days. Let's say hopefully we get this thing closed up in 2 months from the moment they decide to start working with us to the time that this thing is all wrapped up and closed.
But that's probably even short. I mean, I would even give it 90 days, right?
We'll say 90 days. So that's stage 2. The third stage, realtors completely forget about also. Not all of you out there, but this is a huge part of when we apply like the N.U.D.E model to it. Like, how are we now showing up there? The real estate transaction's done. We have this time from right then to when they buy another property that we get a chance to show up in their world, to be their advisor, to be the person that's bringing great information, to be the person that just calls and says, oh my gosh, when we close, your kids were this age. They must be this age right now. That means they're going into high school. Like, how is that? How is that world for you? Like, be that person that we know. We've been in this place with them, and we don't acknowledge these 3 stages. We only look at stage 2 in the middle for the most part, which is doing a great job at our business. And we have these other pieces around it that we've got to embrace. And there's a lot of ways you can look at it, but I think it's a huge opportunity that just kind of gets left on the table.
It really is. And I really like how you broke that into the 3 stages, because when you do compare it to other businesses, it makes it easier to understand. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm a real estate agent. I don't compare to a restaurant, right? It's like, yeah, you don't. You can actually be out of business a whole lot faster than a restaurant. I'm sorry to say, because you don't have the backing of an investment or a long-term lease that you signed or whatever. I mean, probably the only reason why the restaurant here made it the full year is because that's when they were established to be in that space, was for the full year, right? And they're like, all right, we'll just run out the investment. They can see that. Whereas a lot of realtors would be like, I'm out of money this month. Okay, well, if I don't get a closing, then I need to go find a job, right? And I don't want to see agents' businesses fail. And this is where, okay, there's the stage 1 and the stage 3 are probably where we should focus a lot of time and attention, because you're probably going to figure out the systems for stage 2. Now, you can elevate the experience of stage 2, but I also think unless you go big, there's a gap. There's like a, you know, okay service, good service, better than good service, and then there's a gap to like great service. And I think that covering that gap is something you want to try for in stage 2. But stage 1 and stage 3, it's like, let's start by showing up. Like, gosh, if I ever got one piece of information from Collectivo, this was the restaurant that was here, or got on an email list, probably 1 or 2 weekends out of this past year where I was thinking about going somewhere else, if I saw them in my inbox, I'd be like, you know what? Hey, you know what? That's right. Why don't we go there? We always go to that place. Let's go here again. Let's go try them out again, because I remember the food was really good. Their tortillas were amazing. Let's go back there again.
When you look at the value of like stage 3 in the working relationship, I think where a lot of people, it's where the most value you can provide comes from. It's what's neglected the most. And you can't get there unless you've gone through stage 2. Like, these have to go in order. When you're a brand new agent, you're all in stage 1. Where stage 1 is, I am involved, I'm connected, I'm trying to build relationships, I'm trying to get people to see me as a realtor and have some value and understand. My daughter is just getting ready to go into stage 1 of real estate. Then you get to go into stage 2, and the real power, the long-term building incredible business is stage 3. I've watched it happen every single time. And when you start getting into times of saying, okay, this is my people, I'm doing reviews for them on the investments and the real estate that they've chosen to buy for themselves. We're going to be doing that type of stuff. I'm going to check in with them every quarter, give them a little, hey guys, we're coming into winter right now. I wanted to drop this off. I wanted to just email this to you. These are all the things you should be doing to winterize your house, because sometimes we forget. I know going into spring, I don't remember to clean the gutters until they're almost falling off the house because they're clogged up. And then it's like running around in a raincoat. And it's like, all it would take would be somebody calling me and saying, hey, this seems silly, but I'm just checking in with everybody I know that owns a home right now. And here's what you should be doing. It's springtime, change your filters, change this, do that. And by the way, you're going to want to get up there and clean those gutters out before spring rains come. There are elements and things we can bring and be involved with this. This is all stage 3 stuff, but that's the stuff that's going to make me refer that agent.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think it's also any business, stage 3, because here's the difference too between a restaurant and a real estate business. I can experience several different restaurants in a week, right? And then I'm going to take the experiences that I had and have my memory of that. Most people have just experienced your service as a realtor. So when people talk about buying or selling a house, you're the person that comes to mind because you're the only one they've experienced that with. Now, if you've been being in close communication with them in stage 3, you're just leveling up the value every single time without even them having the opportunity to compare it to anybody else. If you leave the door open for other realtors to come in with value, they're going to look at those other things and start to determine whether or not this new stuff they're receiving from these realtors, whether it's conversational or marketing, is better than the service you provided, right? Your service is already up here. It takes a while for all these other things to come in, but if you allow it, it can. But if you're the one there also doing these things, which if you're listening, I'm kind of using my hands to show something because I'm Italian. Well, actually I'm American, but I have an Italian history, if that makes sense. But if you're here doing these things too, like, then you also have your service to stand on, which is going to just put you up here versus where the other realtors are down here.
I feel like I should state what my background is, but we're going to let that go for right now.
Yeah, I know.
We don't need to go there. But I think what you brought up is a really good point, Matt, is that if you look at restaurants, if I were to say, make a list of all the restaurants you've ever been to and your experience of going to restaurants, what is everything that you have to build of going to a restaurant and having an eating out experience? The list is forever long. I mean, we have all gone to so many restaurants. I mean, we could break them down to categories. Like, okay, we got Chinese food, we got steakhouses, we all know who we like as a steakhouse. Hall's Steakhouse, you still hold my heart. So we've got all these different restaurants we can go to. Matt's probably got a whole list of Italian restaurants. And so as we put, that's totally stereotype. I'm sorry, Matt. You may not like Italian
It's
food.
okay. Yeah, they're there. I was thinking of wild olive here on the islands. Fantastic.
As you've got all these lists, if you think back to a real estate agent and say, okay, what is your experience with all the realtors you've ever worked with? Make a list of all the realtors. I can do it. If I real working relationships that I've had where I've either been under contract or had somebody helping me with real estate, the list is not terribly long. For most people, it might be one or two people that they have actually worked with. So the comparison, you don't have a lot of comparison going on here of like what the standards have been. It would be like me going and ordering a milkshake. I have had one milkshake probably in the last 20 years. I enjoy them so much.
But I know why you've only had one milkshake in the past.
I don't do
feel
sugar.
bad for you.
I don't do sugar because it messes with me. But if you put a really good milkshake in front of me and I were to have some of it, I would be able to go, this compares to other milkshakes that I've had in my past. Because every time I have them, I love them. I know them well. But it's one of those things that would stand out because I don't have a ton of things to compare it to. It's just it on its own. Like it's just special in the moment. And with a real estate agent, we have that chance to be special in the moment. They don't have 1,000 milkshakes they've ever had because they have one after dinner every single night. They don't do that. They have one once every 10 years and like, oh, I'll remember that one. Like that was a good one. And, or I wasted my milkshake experience on that. I can think of those too.
Yeah. And you don't want people to be like, man, I wasted my real estate experience on that.
Exactly. It's an opportunity here. And so again, coming out of this, I know we probably went longer on this, Matt, than we went to, but I enjoyed going down this conversation with you is that, businesses fail for all sorts of reasons. Real estate businesses fail for all sorts of reasons. And there's another element that we can go down here if we want to. But as you look at these from the outside and you're looking at your own business, how are you showing up for your clients? How are you showing up when you're attracting new people in? How are you showing up during the actual transaction itself? And how are you showing up after that transaction actually happens? And if you can raise the bar in all these areas, you're probably going to have a thriving business. You can look at your business right now and know, oh, I only do stage 2. I know there's people listening out there right now. They're like, man, I am heavily focused in stage 2 and stage 1 and 3. I really don't even pay attention to that much. Things to learn.
Well, I think here's the cool thing about running a real estate business as a salesperson, right? Is you have amazing margins, right? Real estate restaurants don't have great margins overall, right? So little things can upend.
Unless you're charging $50 for a plate of pasta.
$50 for a plate of pasta.
Sorry.
Unless wherever they were sourcing that wheat must have been something outrageous. But you have great margins. And so the likelihood of you failing because you're losing money on each transaction is probably low. And so you probably just aren't having enough business come in. And that gets into stage 1 and stage 3, and then elevating stage 2 to the point where it's a talkable thing. People want to talk about the amazing experience that they had. But I would even say for most of you listening, you're probably not doing enough in stage 3. There's people who have experienced you, who trust you, who love you, who don't hear from you often enough and are not being educated by you about real estate. And they're just not seeing the value consistently to then refer you new business. So I would look at that stage 3.
That, Matt, and you just said it, the referrals are where it's at. And I think we get so focused on, will they come back and use me again? And
they probably will.
They probably will in 7 years. Great. What we need to focus on now is how do we provide enough value so that they will refer us and show up in the right way during this stage 3 time. If you figure that out, every single person from the stats that I've seen and I've watched, every single person has 2 opportunities to refer you during that year, not the 7 years, every year. So how many people do you need to make the business that you want to make?
It's incredible. So hopefully this brought a lot of value to you guys. I always love doing little case studies like this, even though we didn't know the information behind these restaurants, kind of using our own perception of these things. But if that's our perception from a consumer side, it's probably partially true, right?
Yeah, we have enough insight. So with that being said, Matt, great topic. I think this is a mutual topic that we kind of landed on together. But I appreciate you kicking around with me. For all of you that are listening right now, if you want to learn more about what we've got going on in our world, we have created an amazing place, which is a Life at 10 Tenths that you can come and be a member of. Inside that group, we have a coaching community where we coach every single week, groups of people, and it's called the 11 Circle. And we'd love to have you come and be a part of that. We have an amazing group that's building out there. We just did live coaching here just the other day, Matt. And the tips and the ideas that came out of the conversations in there, it's exactly what I want this thing to grow into. And I'm excited to see this thing coming more and more to life every single day. So that's awesome. And again, if you want to come and be a part of that, go to lifeat10tenths.com. You'll find our website. You can get all the information you need on there and how you need to be able to move forward. And with that being said, anything else, Matt?
No, that's it. I mean, I will say the 11 Circle is unlike any other coaching program you've been a part of or you can be a part of. It's something unique that we've really wanted to build, something we've wanted to kind of create for a long time, Garrett, and now we have the opportunity to do it. So, definitely check it out. Invest in yourself. It's going to be worth it.
And then have an amazing day, guys. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.